Good evening and welcome to the Township Committee Candidate Night 2014, presented by Lacey Township High School Close-Up Club. I'm your moderator for the evening, Samantha Grosh. We have invited candidates to Lacey Township Committee to answer questions from the student members of Lacey Township Close-Up Club in a pre-selected random order. Mr. Nick Giuliano will go first and Mr. Gregory Panza will go second. Each candidate will be afforded 2 minutes to answer each question, immediately followed by a 1-minute rebuttal or response time. At the end of each question or answer session, each candidate will have 3 minutes for a closing statement. Let's get started. Sarah Phillips will have the first question.
Hello, my question for you is, what is your financial plan for the eventual closing of the nuclear power plant and the loss of tax revenue?
That's to me, right? Okay. Well, what we're hoping to do is keep the tax rateable there, because we know we need to keep the power plant operating somehow. I've talked to different people about the gas-powered things that are going on there, but we believe that we need to get a tax rateable and another plant, some sort in there. So we're really looking forward to working on that. That's what I plan on working on very hard, to get something in there so we can keep the tax rateable and the people in the community, with it.
Thank you. Now we'll have Mr. Panza.
As far as the power plant goes, it's been a very effective tool for us as Lacey Township as far as keeping the tax rateable low. As far as what should go there next, I'm open to just about anything as far as if it keeps the community safe. Gas there comes with certain dangers and economic or ecological problems. So unfortunately we have a time constraint here. 2019 is approaching very quickly. So whatever decision we make has to be made very aggressively and very quickly. Thank you.
Mr. Giuliano, do you have anything else to say?
No.
Mr. Panza?
No.
Now we'll have a question from Ms. Brianna Capicelli.
Would you consider a new public campaign against crime in Lacey Township? For example, a Lock Your Door campaign or a Community Watch campaign?
To lock your door, did you say, campaign?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, right now, as it seems, I've been keeping an eye on everything that's going on in our township. Right now, I think we have probably, and Chief Paparata, I think he's doing an excellent job. He's cracking down on a lot of things that are happening. There's a lot of things that get flushed out. Coming from a police background and with my mother, I used to listen to her always say, everything comes out in the open, but it flushes out before it really gets to getting it done. And that's what, I look forward to working with different people, with Chief Paparata, to keep everything on the right path.
Thank you. Mr. Panza?
Well, unfortunately, Mr. Giuliano doesn't come from a law enforcement background. Regardless of what his mother did, that's not him.
No, it's not me.
I have the law enforcement background. I've been a police officer for several years. I did approach the committee last year and address the problem and brought it to their attention that we're down officers, okay? We're down to about 32 or 34, somewhere around there, okay? Now, if you want to start programs up such as that, you're going to have the officers to do that. And unfortunately, we don't have the resources at this point in time to address those issues. So once the staffing level of the police department is addressed and brought up to the proper levels, then we can implement a program. And I would absolutely love to bring the community in as far as a neighborhood watch program and Lock Your Doors program. Because your best crime prevention is the community. They're the ones out there watching the streets.
Mr. Giuliano, now's your time to respond.
Well, He did say, I didn't say that I came from a police background. My mother was the first woman chief in the state of New Jersey. I listened to a lot of things she said as we were growing up. That's where it came about. And, you know, my father was a police officer too, so that's where it came. And I used to always listen to things she said. Crime Watch, we had one in Ocean Gate. It did work. She was the head of it, and it did work. But there's a lot of other things that are involved. Like Greg did say, you have to have the community involved in it, and a lot of times they don't get involved in it like they should.
Thank you. Now we'll have Joy Holman with this evening's final question.
I've been to other areas in New Jersey and other states that have a real downtown energy or a town center. There are people shopping, walking, and eating outside. What could you do to implement something like this in our town?
As a businessman in town, I owned a couple businesses. One was in town. There's certain sections of town that could be looked at to be made that. We did it when I had the business down in Manahawkin. I had a auto parts store down there for 18 years, and we had that. We started that when I was just leaving there, the town center on Bay Avenue in Manahawkin. Here, there's a lot of different things, and I look forward to entertaining it to see what we can do to get something in the town where it could make it possibly that. Right now, it's all about what I feel is we need to keep business in the town, and we got to keep it, the tax ratables coming in, and that's business is number one.
Thank you. Mr. Panza?
Yes, Mr. Giuliano did mention that he did own a business, or does own a business in town. I'll get to that in just a minute. To answer your question, I work for a town where it's the Main Street USA type feel, Bradley Beach. We have our restaurants and storefronts and things of that nature. Unfortunately, at this point in time, Lacey Township doesn't have, we're more main roads. Route 9 and Lacey Road are the two main strips that go through town. Now, in order to address your question and your wants as far as having that Main Street USA feel, we would have to designate an area of town that would address that and accommodate that. I would be open to getting that Main Street feel into Lacey Township and driving the business as far as what you've seen. So, thank you.
Mr. Giuliano, do you have anything else to say?
No.
Mr. Panza?
Is there closing comments now, or?
We actually have one more question for you.
Okay.
Presenting our last and final question is Angeline Lafferty.
What plans do you have to attract businesses that people would really get excited about, such as movie theaters, Starbucks, Taco Bell, I Play America, or Panera Bread?
Well, when I worked for corporate many years ago, there was different ways that we attracted people. A lot of times, I have an uncle that's in business, and I listen to a lot of things he said. To attract business, the best person to do it is the business person himself, to go out to solicit big corporations. Big corporations have their minds open to come to anywhere as long as the people want them, and we have the land to do it in and everything else. There's a lot of different ways we can do it, and that's down the road. I look forward to maybe entertaining. I am a businessman. I have a business background, and yeah, I'd like to see some more different things like that. Real quick, my son and I talked about it a long time ago, about a movie theater right in the on Lacey Road. So it was thoughts that ran through my mind to give for the children in the town, the kids, to keep them away from off of the streets and doing things like that. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Panza?
I'm always in favor of bringing in businesses such as you've mentioned. Unfortunately, the planning board actually was in litigation not too long ago with White Castle, and that has since been settled. And so we are getting a White Castle at some point in time, but we want to welcome these businesses. We don't want to turn them away because of what their hours are that they want to operate. So we want that name for ourselves. We want to establish that type of relationship with incoming businesses. So that's where I stand on your point. I am not opposed to it, and as far as welcoming new businesses, I'm for it, to keep the tax rates down, especially in light of potentially losing the power plant when we are.
Thank you both. At this time, we will have 3 minutes for each candidate's closing statement, starting with Mr. Giuliano.
Okay, well, things I look forward to doing. I've been here for a long time in town, and I've had the business in town. Like I said, I sold it in 2009. But my business background could keep a lot of things rolling, and that's what I look forward to doing if I'm elected in November, is to get on that board to help them use my business, you know, my readings of P&Ls, because running a town is a business. And I had 2 successful ones in doing that. A lot of things I thought about were the shared service program, which we had down in Stafford Township when I was down in Manahawkin, and then up here, Lacey Township also got a board on it. The shared services and purchasing of different products in big volume saves the taxpayers money. What I want in town is, I want to make it safe for people to want to come to this town, to raise their children like I did. We did great. I have a daughter in college and my son, and he's doing music, so it's really been a great town to live in. I look forward to staying here for the rest of my life, that's for sure. So there's a lot of things. Last, I'd like to thank all of you for the questions and everything you've done. Mr. O'Sullivan, I'd like to thank him, the Close-Up Club, and Channel 21. I just look forward to everybody come out and vote November 4th and vote for me. That's what I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Panza?
As I said before, and he just said it again, Mr. Giuliano does own a business in town. It was 2012 South Jersey Auto Supply and 2013 Eastern Warehouse Distributors. He also sits on the MUA. And at that point in time, while he sat on the MUA, a contract was signed to purchase auto parts from these stores, which he owned. And also in looking at Mr. Giuliano's voting record on the MUA from the years 2014 back to 2012, he voted 325 times yes to each issue. And out of the 325 times of the issues that came up, he voted 325 times out of 325 issues. When we were at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, Mr. Giuliano said that he would go with the flow if he was elected on the committee. And I believe that to be a true statement. We don't need anybody to go with the flow. I'm an individual and a candidate that refuses to go with the flow. I'm telling you here that I am representing the silent majority here in Lacey Township. People are frustrated, they're tired, and they want more out of their government, rather than people sitting there and self-serving themselves on the committee or the MUA. Thank you.
The LTHS Close-Up Club would like to thank both candidates for Township Committee for attending tonight's event. Please remember to go out and vote on November 4th.
We're done?